Welcome to 10 Minute Climate, the podcast brought to you by Beaverbrook Energy. Beaverbrook Energy helps clients navigate the energy transition, identifying the best route forward, quantifying the costs and benefits, and delivering real-world results through funded and managed projects. Join Max.
Hi, I'm Max.
And Tony.
Hi, I'm Tony.
Who between them have got over 70 years of experience in the energy industry, and they're here to share it with you. Each episode, they'll cut through myths, answer the questions you've always wanted to ask, and break down the latest news about the energy transition. It's everything you need to know, delivered in just 10 minutes. So let's get started. Welcome to 10 Minute Climate.
Electric cars, they're great. Electric trains been around for a long time.
Yep.
There are some electric ships coming.
Yep.
Electric planes.
You can have one today if you want one. Can't go very far. And the infrastructure supporting it is quite difficult.
And they're quite small.
Yeah. I mean, I think realistically, you're looking at a situation where aviation is one of those difficult industries that short-haul flights, a bit like Amazon looking to drop your parcels with an electric drone in the near future, short-haul flights for people over limited distances will be a reality. They'll use electric because it makes more commercial sense.
Yeah.
Long haul, they're still going to have to use jet engines.
Yeah, long haul's interesting because it's about half of all aviation emissions come from flights over 3,000 kilometres. And there kind of isn't a solution for that yet.
Well, there is, but it means like a retrograde step in part of your brain and a great leap forward in another is airships. Airships, they're slower. You can only get to like 200 miles an hour or something in an airship.
So going 3,000 kilometres is...
So, well, no, it just means that instead of flying the Atlantic in 8 hours, you might fly the Atlantic in a day, right? Which is doable.
In an airship.
Yeah. Because
scary.
No, perfectly safe. This is not the Hindenburg. We're not talking about filling the airship full of hydrogen and then crashing it into a pylon in New Jersey and frying. Well, it didn't actually fry everybody.
Good. That's not a good thing.
That's been done before, and it wasn't a good look. But modern airships,
Helium,
inert gas, doesn't catch fire, right? Quite difficult to produce, but the lifting weight of an airship is huge and almost unlimited. So the concept of lifting batteries and covering the whole of the top of the lifting bag of the airship with solar panels, because I don't know if anybody ever told anyone, but the sun shines all the time. And the reason you say the sun isn't shining is not because the sun isn't shining, it's because it's got clouds in the way.
or you're facing the wrong way.
The airships would go above the clouds and they would have solar panels generating electricity and huge batteries on board and would carry massive loads, much bigger than you would have. Basically ships of the air.
I don't know. I think the thing is that the jets of today are fast, cheap, incredibly safe.
Why can't you fly Concorde?
Too expensive.
Right. But you could get there before you left. You could actually beat the time zone, right? So we create this world where we think tiny little segments of time are important. If you turn around and say it takes a day to go to America, it takes a day to go to Australia. It doesn't mean to say nobody ever goes to Australia. We've just got used to going to America in 8 hours. We can go to America in a day with a high-speed airship.
We're going to disagree on this one, but let's just look at it. Okay, so aviation uses a massive amount of energy.
Yes.
Typically because of the distance. Actually, per person per mile,
it's better than a bus.
It's better than a car.
Possibly better than the bus.
Possibly better than a bus. But nevertheless, it's a huge amount of anyone's individual carbon footprint. So if you've got to replace that, the options are batteries, airships.
Ships.
People
used to travel across the Atlantic and allow 3.5 days, blue ribbon, 3.5 days across the Atlantic.
Well, people still go across the Atlantic in ships.
Yeah, I know. But they're bimbling.
Yeah. But the other thing is sustainable aviation fuel.
Yes.
Now, I think from next year,
How sustainable is sustainable? You're talking about using chip fat, aren't you? Or growing crops.
Growing crops. But the problem is, I think current aviation needs would require, if you made sustainable aviation fuel from crops, you
Yes.
need to take 120% of the world's current crop production to
Yes.
produce enough sustainable aviation fuel
Yes.
for current aviation.
Yes, which
not
means
gonna
you wouldn't be able to feed your cows, which already takes something like 40% of the crop production in the UK. Well, probably globally.
Yeah, so that's no good. So the next option is power to liquid,
Yes.
renewable power converted into liquid,
Yes.
and that's you're taking CO2 out of the atmosphere,
Yep.
doing something clever with it. I'm not entirely sure what.
Okay.
Should know. And
Yeah, I mean, you can make the hydrogen is a brilliant fuel.
No, I'm not talking about hydrogen. This is a
It's just
liquid power
difficult to get at.
liquid.
Well, yeah, but if you get a hydrocarbon liquid, you create by a chemical or power driven reaction to create a fuel that you can then burn. Right? It needs to, because of the way we have this oxygen related combustion stuff on this planet, it needs to be a hydrocarbon fuel.
Yes.
So it's either hydrogen or hydrogen and oxygen and a few other
But
bits.
I think you can create synthetic fuel from power.
Yes, but it's still hydrocarbons.
Yes, it's hydrocarbons, sure, but as long as you're taking the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere,
Yeah.
that's okay.
And breaking it down.
You
But
take
you've
it-
only
you
got C and O in carbon dioxide. You've got
Yeah.
CO2, right? You need to put an H in there.
So I think what you do is you take that, you create hydrogen, add
Yeah.
CO2, and you end up
But
with
creating hydrogen is a very energy intensive process,
yes.
right? And extracting hydrogen is a very energy intensive
So
process.
it's expensive.
And it's just, it'd be cheaper to do airships. But anyway, there's no investment in airships at the moment because people aren't interested. Ever since the R101 crashed in France, nobody in the UK has been interested in airships. We've got a situation whereby long distance travel has to be addressed, right? We have got systems which operated really well for a long period of time. Sail ships, then motorized ships. Then as soon as we got into air travel, we got addicted to the time. It's another one of our addictions. People used to accept the fact that if you went to America in the 1700s, it took you 3 weeks to get there. And then by the 20th century, they got to accept the fact that when you were in a motorized big liner, it took you 3 days to get there. And then they got the Concorde and it took 3 hours to get there. Now we've pegged back from the 3 hours and we now take 8 hours. But would it be such a disaster if it suddenly became 24 hours?
It wouldn't, but I just don't think going backwards is going to work. I don't think you can offer that to people.
But it's
with a
not
straight face.
backwards, it's forwards, because you'd be traveling, you'd be taking a lot more. It would be a lot cheaper because you'd be talking about aircraft that could carry 1,000 people and perhaps 3,000 or 4,000 tons of cargo. Right, so you're talking
But
about
the idea is, of course,
2380s taking off at the same time.
but you're thinking the airship's going to be like, the 1920s with big lounges and a casino
Why not?
and dining rooms and stuff. What? Why not? Why? I tell you why
Why is
not.
cruise ships like
Because people want it as cheap as possible, so you just ram in seats like an airline.
But what you do is you build your airship like you build an old liner, and you have steerage, and then you have people who want to spend all their time in the casino. You can go on a cruise ship for very little money, unless you want to drink anything alcoholic or do anything that doesn't involve sitting in the sunshine, right? And airships will be the same. If they've got you for 24 hours, they'll have you on the slot machines and on the roulette tables and watching shows and doing all sorts of stuff because they can.
But no one's doing it.
No, because again, we have an industry that's developed over the last 100-ish years, really. The airline industry didn't really start until the end of the First World War, 1920s. I think Sabina was the first one, in sort of 1919 as an airline. So you've got this situation where you've got this massive global industry which links all the world's economies through a high-speed transfer of people and lightweight goods, right? You then have to say, well, what's invested in that? The airports, the review. It's so interconnected. There is one of the very few global agreements on tax is about nobody taxes airline fuel.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to buy kerosene for a plane than it is to buy petrol for a car, right?
Yeah. So how are you going to unlock that? It's not going to happen.
We can do it. Whether we will do it or not is another question. And again, it's like something, I'm sounding a bit like a cracked record, is you've got this situation. You can fly an electric aeroplane, right?
Short distance, small one.
Short distance, small one. You can fly an electric long distance airship, airplane, call it what you will, but it'll be probably a lifting body design type airship. So it will be part aerodynamic as well as lifting. But we will need to address things in a different way. The same way as we're currently addressing the issue of you have to think about when you want to refuel your electric vehicle, where you never did because of the petrol station network globally. You didn't have to worry about whether there was going to be a petrol station around the corner. You have to think about charging your car.
I think it's a much bigger issue, and I don't see a solution.
If somebody said to me I could go to the Atlantic for half the price, I would take it.
Yeah, but you've got more time than most people.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow and continue bringing you valuable content. If you're curious to learn more about Beaverbrook Energy and how we're navigating the future of energy, feel free to reach out to us directly. And for those looking for quick, actionable insights on the energy transition, be sure to subscribe to our 10-second climate newsletter, delivered every weekend with essential intelligence to help business leaders stay ahead of the curve. We appreciate you listening, and we look forward to having you join us again next time. Stay informed, stay engaged, and take care.